Call this meeting of the City Council to order and start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Filler. Councilmember Keim.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
And at this time, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And at this time, if I could have the Humane Society representative come down with Jack's new dog. Your new dog.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. My name is Lisa. This is Etsy. Etsy, it's E-T-S-Y. Etsy is going in circles. Etsy, sit. She is an Australian cattle dog, and she is about 5.5 years old. She was owner relinquished. She's been in another shelter besides ours, so she's kind of been through this before. She's just looking for her forever home. She's an employee pick. She's very well behaved. She walks really well on leash. She's house trained. She should be the only dog in the home. She doesn't really do that well with other dogs when they're running around or running up to her. It makes her uncomfortable, and then she feels like she needs to get bossy, and she'll nip at them. So best to be the only dog in the home. What else can I tell you about her? You know, they're a pretty active breed. So when she's out and about, she's very active, but when she's at home, she is able to just settle and relax, and she'll come up and try to get in your lap. She's just a little love bug. And she is available for adoption at the San Diego Humane Society, the San Luis Rey location here in Oceanside. So come and meet her if anybody is interested in seeing her. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is we have a promotion. Even though summer is coming to an end and kids are back in school, we still have a lot of kittens and cats in our shelter. So we're having an empty nest, full heart special. So from September 13th through September 15th, all cats and kittens will be $15 for adoption. And so that includes their microchip and spay and neuter and all their vaccinations. And so that's a really good deal. Kittens are normally $125, so it's really great. Hope you guys all come and see us. Thank you so much.
How is the dog with cats?
Etsy, she was asking how is Etsy with cats. Etsy has actually lived with cats, and she did fine with cats. I don't know if she just coexisted or if they really interacted a whole lot, but she lived peacefully with them and did just fine.
Thank you very much. And so now I'd like to have all of the ladies for Constitution Week to please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Laura Horn, First Vice Regent of Santa Margarita Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. On behalf of our chapter and the members here with me tonight, I thank you for this proclamation. This is the 63rd anniversary of Constitution Week, celebrated annually from September 17th through the 23rd. It is the commemoration of one of America's most important documents. We Americans are celebrating the 232nd anniversary of the United States Constitution, the longest-lasting national constitution in the world, which guarantees most of our liberties and freedoms we enjoy today. This proclamation will be displayed at the Constitution Week brunch, celebrated jointly with the other 11 DAR chapters within our Southern California District 14, the local chapters of the Sons of the American Revolution, and the Children of the American Revolution. Our National Society will celebrate Bells Across America at 1:00 p.m. Standard Time on Tuesday, September 17th, proclaiming the final signing. We encourage everyone to step outside and ring a bell of freedom on that day. Thank you so much, Mayor. I will most gladly introduce our guests. This is Wanda Prosser, who has been a long-term standing member of our Santa Margarita chapter and has held national offices in the Society of the National Daughters of the American Revolution. This is Jackie Berzins, who is also a chapter officer within our organization. Diana Cook, who has been past regent of our chapter, and also Catherine Kirby, who is also an officer within our chapter. Again, we thank you for this proclamation.
Scott? And at this time, I'd like to have Leslie Gall from Visit Oceanside and all those that are here for California Surf Day.
To get you to do this.
So this is in recognition of California Surfing Day, September 20th, 2019. California's second annual California Surfing Day, the official holiday to celebrate California surfing lifestyle and honor the history, culture, and future of surfing, is the September 20th. Take a break from work and participate in our community-wide board meeting at the Oceanside Pier at 6:30 a.m. You're invited to stop, drop, and surf and join the Oceanside Board Riders Club, the Oceanside Longboard Surfing Club, the California Surf Museum, and visit Oceanside in the festivities. The Golden State boasts hundreds of miles of coastline and some of the world's best surf breaks. Together, we can help Visit Oceanside spread the word and raise awareness among surfing and adventure aficionados around the world about this holiday, and emphasize that Oceanside is California's surf capital.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, helping us celebrate California Surfing Day, September 20th. It wouldn't be possible without these gentlemen up here who really make our surf culture alive and prevalent. I have Kevin O'Keefe here with the California Surf Museum and Jeff Warner, who's representing the Oceanside Longboarding Club. You guys want to say a couple things?
Sure. Invite everybody. Aloha, by the way. The California Surf Museum, in celebration of September 21st, which will be is the designated California surfing being the official sport of the California state. We are on the 20th, as Peter had mentioned. We are having a celebration on that day. On Friday, the museum will be open from 10 to 4 with free admission. We also will have Legends of Surfing, Jericho Poplar, Paul Strow, and others there at the museum between 10 and 4 for everyone to come down and talk to some of the legends, and of course see our extensive 200 board displays and our museum in general. The California Surf Museum is the second largest tourist draw in Oceanside, so our tourists know that that museum is something to see, and for all the locals to come and see us. We very rarely get a lot of the general population local into the museum, so come and see us. Again, that's at 312 Pierview Way. Come and see us on the official surf day.
They're too shy.
All right, well, thank you very much,
Thank you.
and we'll see you on Surf Day. At this time, I'll turn the microphone over to Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Peter. If I could have the Navarros come down, and also Friends of the Oceanside Public Library, please come on down. This has to do with our annual Oceanside Noche Mexicana. This is actually our 15th annual. We're very, very excited. It's going to kick off National Hispanic Heritage Month. We'd like to invite everyone. It's this Sunday, September 15th, 1 to 7 p.m. here at the Oceanside Civic Center Plaza. The proclamation for us today is in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, and that's from September 15th to October 15th, 2019. Whereas the City of Oceanside commemorates National Hispanic Heritage Month each year, starting this year with the 15th annual Oceanside Noche Mexicana, to be held this Sunday, September 15th, 1 to 7 p.m., a free community family cultural event held annually in September at the Oceanside Civic Center Plaza, attended by thousands of Oceanside residents and visitors. And whereas this year's event would not be taking place without the wonderful and generous collaboration of NBC 7 Telemundo 20, the Oceanside Public Library, Friends of the Oceanside Public Library, Luis Oseguera and his Ballet Folklorico Tapatio de Oceanside, Shema and Manuel Navarro and their Por Siempre Car Club and Calpulí, Omiocan, Danza Azteca, St. Mary's Star of the Sea Church, Ed Becerra and his Education Begins in the Home, Reggie Gaeta and his restaurant La Perla Tapatia, Vista Community Clinic, and the City of Oceanside. And whereas, after a blessing by St. Mary's Church and the Aztec dancers Calpulí o Meyocan, the event will include performances by Ballet Folklorico Tapatio de Oceanside, Mariachi Juvenil de San Diego, and other local Latino bands, singers, and dancers. A very special guest performance will be by talented singer Angelito Garcia of America's Got Talent and La Voz Kids. This event will close with a representative from the Mexican consulate who will present a reenactment of the Grito de Dolores, which is the cry for independence. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated from September 15th through October 15th every year, which honors the histories, cultures, arts, and contributions of American citizens and residents whose ancestors came from Mexico, Spain, Central and South America, and the Caribbean, bringing pride to our Latino families, seniors, and youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Peter Weiss, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, California, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2019, as National Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Oceanside. I'm going to hand this over to Shema, who is, as I said, part of the Aztec dancers. They're going to start off the event. And would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I encourage everybody to come to this event. It's immersed in all sorts of traditional and authentic dances from Mexico. So if you want to learn a little bit about the Mexican culture or learn a little bit about your own culture, come to this event because it's just a beautiful thing. It's very community, just all people coming together and just enjoying the day. We have so much entertainment, so many mariachis, if you like mariachi, and so many different types of danzas from all over Mexico.
Thank you. This is Manuel, actually her husband, who has created with others Por Siempre Car Club. And what is Por Siempre Car Club?
Oh, Por Siempre Car Club is a club from the community of Oceanside. And when you call us, we gladly accept it. We like to support Oceanside and North County. We support schools. We did scholarships. We also helped the Dia de los Muertos event in Oceanside. And you might have seen us in the parade over the years, the Freedom Parade at the end of June. So come and see a lot of classic and lowriders also in display. So bring your cameras, and if you like classic cars, this is the show for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, this event couldn't be possible without the great help of the Friends of the Oceanside Public Library. We have Chris Wilson here, who's the chair of the Friends of the Oceanside Public Library, and Samantha, their treasurer, who helped us through as treasurers, as the treasurer part as well. So, would you like to speak?
Thanks, everybody. The Friends of the Library are happy to support all kinds of cultural events through the library and its connections to the community. And this is just another great opportunity when it arose that there was a need for someone to handle some of the fiscal responsibilities for the event. We were asked to step up, and we are glad to do so.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Samantha. And welcome. It's going to be on Sunday again, just right out here, the 15th, from 1 to 7 p.m. You will be wowed. These kids know how to dance. These kids know how to make music. It is a fantastic, fantastic celebration. There'll be food too, food and booths, artisan booths. So come on down. Thank you very much.
Nothing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank
We're
you.
going right through. At this time, we'll go to our consent calendar, which consists of items 3 through 17. Do we have any speakers?
Before we do the speakers, the city clerk's office has found and was notified of an error on item number 7. It should read an authorization for the mayor to execute the amendment and not the city manager.
Okay.
And under item number 7, we have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Joan Bachman, to be followed by Ken Hacker, to be followed by Sherman Whitmore.
Which item?
Move approval for balance.
We have a motion and a second for the balance. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
It'll be later. I'm not going to do it now. 7.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Joan Bachman, President of Friends of El Corazon. We ask that this item be pulled because this item is really indicative of a much larger problem than what is actually on your on the item tonight. Staff has had a very thankless job of trying to manage El Corazon, and we did send a letter to the city manager and mayor, which they are acting on. We very much appreciate that. But the way it's been set up, it's been very difficult for the right hand and the left hand to know what's happening. We have here a lot line adjustment, which some would say is a done deal. However, there's roads that surround the property that the lot was pulled away from. Who pays for that? I think the taxpayers need to know that. There was an intersection at RDO and Ocean Ranch Road. Was that paid for by developers or by the city? What happened with that? The lot that is then created has access only off B Street, which is a major access into El Corazon, which is the People's Park. It is not there to be somebody's neighborhood or somebody's development. It is there to be our central park. So it's an extremely important road. And what has been happening is that that road is now being compromised. There would be multiple exits right on that major road. That impacts landscaping. There's a fire truck turnaround on things that aren't before you right now. But that is what the implications of this item are. Regular adjustments to this parcel, the Sterling parcel, on El Corazon that has been coming back to the city again and again and again have resulted in a degradation of the promise to the public. And we're very concerned about that. The park should always be the main focus of anything on El Corazon. It is a park first and other uses second. And that should always be the absolute way it's approached. And unfortunately, when staff is put in the position of dealing with these developers and dealing with people without a bigger picture available to them, sometimes on exactly where the finances are, exactly what the implications are, and all of that, it really leads to a lot of compromises. And so we ask that you delay this item until all of these questions are answered and that we do have a full picture of what's happening on El Corazon, because this little lot line adjustment has major implications. The land given to us is not of value as a park. We can't put a field there. It's not going to do anything. And the city is getting land that will be difficult to develop. So just wanted you to know about the bigger picture on this, and that is our concern. Thank you.
Lights are working. The lights are working.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, my name is Ken Hacker, and some background, I was part of the original El Corazon group, which came up with the how El Corazon was supposed to be developed. I was part of the oversight committee, and I've been following this program for about 15 years through the courtesy of Mr. Feller. And I do not believe that you should approve amendment number 3 on the property exchange, because Sterling is not doing what they promised. The road is supposed to be built. It's not being done. When the hotel is great. I think Oceanside needs it, but you have to do the rest of the amenities. They're not doing it completely. So therefore, you should not approve this. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Whitmore?
Mayor and City Council, I'm Sherman Whitmore. A number of years ago, I was introduced to, I'm sorry, thank you.
You're good.
I was introduced to the El Corazon project, and I was quite impressed with it as to what the city and the citizens had come up with, having a major sports complex. I was subsequently in touch with McMillan and Company, Sudbury, and Sterling. McMillan won it and decided not to go ahead with it. Sudbury got it by default. Now, I've been kept in touch with this through some of my friends over in Oceanside, and I find it curious that this item is even on the agenda. Has Sudbury built the 8 acres of general athletic fields? I don't see them. Has Sudbury put in the walking trails that were required in the contract? I don't see those. Has Sudbury, as a matter of fact, really done anything that was in the contract that they were supposed to fulfill? I don't see any of it. I happen to be a real estate developer, so I'm not unfamiliar with the process. Time has gone by. I don't see how this item should even be considered, considering it's Sudbury. I don't see Colton Sudbury anyplace. I don't see Charlie Abdi anyplace. I mean, normally of a site of this magnitude, you would think a president or vice president or partner would show up to represent himself in something of this magnitude. I suggest that this item be either continued or thrown out. I think it inappropriate that it even should be considered. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Stop working again. Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. I also received concerns about the lack of direction or reference to landscaping and how this ought to be the landscaped entrance to this grand park. Doesn't talk about who's going to pay for it. Is it going to be the developer, or is it going to be the city of Oceanside? And those things really, really ought to be spelled out here. So I do have some concerns that perhaps this is not a rush situation. I agree that we ought to continue it, address these issues, and this is on the consent calendar. Usually you have every issue has been ironed out. And it seems like there's still a few things that need to be discussed. So I would be making a motion at this time that we continue this item to allow staff to address these issues.
There does not appear to be a second to that motion. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Based on the staff report for item number 7, is there staff present that can address the concerns of the audience before I continue?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez, Douglas Hedda, Real Estate Manager, City of Oceanside. The item before you has nothing to do with these people brought up. It has to do with items that have been approved as far as improvements are concerned, and it addresses how they're going to be repaid. Basically, they're accelerating their repayment that the city had already agreed to per the original property exchange agreement.
Very good. So the developer has infrastructure and improvement costs that they have to get financing for, and in this agreement, they've agreed to move forward on these costs, and the city agreed to reimburse them on these costs. So instead of putting an additional burden on the developer and slow things down, this is going to expedite everything that's promised within the contract. So I would like to move a motion to approve item number 7.
I'll second.
Heller?
I just wanted Doug to explain what we were actually doing.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you. Actually, this is not that situation. What the situation here before us is the developer's request to put off payment until the very end. Usually the payment is at the beginning, and what they're doing is they're shifting it to the end, and that's what they're asking for. But at the same time, we ought to be addressing these issues as well, since these issues have not been resolved. They're asking for something significant that generally is not allowed. And so this is a special request. This is a special, can we not have to pay for this until later on in the process? So the city is saying, yes, okay, we'll do that. We'll let you pay this off later on. But we ought to as well be addressing these issues. Thank you.
Mr. Edel, I presume we are not approving the hotel development this evening. They're going to have to go through the separate entitlement process, which will include parking analysis, landscaping plans, and the works.
Honorable Mayor, Douglas Hedda, Real Estate Manager. The item before you does not approve the hotel project on the north parcel at this time.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 401. Weiss, Keim, Rodriguez, Feller, yes. Sanchez, no.
At this time, we will go to item 22, which is communications from the public regarding items not on the agenda. But before we do that, Zeb, I would like to introduce Inez Williams, who has brought together a number of veterans and active military that are here tonight to be part of our council meeting. So thank you for coming, and appreciate you being here.
Could they stand? Could you stand, please?
They probably can stand. Since they probably walked in here, they should be able to stand.
Thank you. I understand they're students, and they're here because of 9/11 and showing, their commitment to this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How many do we have on 22?
We have 17 speakers on number 22.
So we will go to as close as 6 o'clock as we can.
Okay, perfect. We have 2 lecterns. Please, as I call your name, make your way up to the front. We do have some seats in the front that are available for you to sit down. Our first speaker is Fabio Marchi, to be followed by Arlene Hammerschmidt, to be followed by Terry Ann Skelly, to be followed by Jason Maggio.
Hello, council members. I'm here to apologize for the last time in your meeting. I was a little bit emotional, and I kind of apologize for that. And the reason of my behavior that day was because on that day, they were giving me a fire permit that took me 7 times to get approval. The only good thing that I learned is that I'm in the Guinness records for beating the maximum numbers of disapprovals against the fire department. And I have to give you a little bit of my observation to you, because obviously there's no communication between the fire department and the customers. In one of the parts of the process of the application, I was instructed that I'm the owner of the project and the general contractor. I should be out of the negotiations of the fire sprinkler system. And they forced to my designer to install and design steel pipes for risers. That it is a very expensive item. It costs in 4 risers $10,000 a piece. It took 2 months of delaying my project. And after getting rejected 2 more times, the fire chief says, "Oh, I have good news for you. You can do plastic pipes instead, but you need to resubmit all over again." So that cost me 2 months delayed. They charged me 7 times what any customer will pay for one plain submittal. My project is right behind Oceanside Boulevard. Angelo's Burger in South Oceanside. It's a beautiful building. All the neighbors are giving compliments, and they want to do the same. My project is sustainable. I provide work to people that they live in Oceanside. We spend money in the local businesses, but the fire department is totally wrong, and now they're forcing me to change a pipe that is superior without no logic, with not public safety, just for the I would say wrong understanding of the fire department. I'm asking you as a council members to grant me the opportunity to talk with you and see the fire marshal and fire chief with me, that I'm the owner, to resolve the issue. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry again for this, but it is a big project. It's so big for me, and I'm doing the best that I can to get this project and bring money to Oceanside, so much needed. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Marchi.
Pass, okay. Terry Ann Skelly, to be followed by Jason Maggio, to be followed by Zach Barrington.
If he called your name, just come on down to the podiums.
Good evening. My name is Terry Ann Skelly, and I'm a parent of 3 young men. I live and work in North County doing public health education, primarily with youth. I share the goals of the county's Live Well initiative to provide smoke-free public venues for children. One of my goals is to make sure that young people have the scientific facts they need about the problems with tobacco and marijuana secondhand smoke, and with teen marijuana smoking and vaping. This is the pot industry's marketing campaigns and normalization efforts that have led to a record number of kids who view marijuana as harmless, especially vaping it. Just last Friday, the Centers for Disease Control said that the number of unexplained severe vaping-related respiratory illnesses linked to vaping marijuana has jumped to more than 450 cases, requiring hospitalizations, and are linked to 6 deaths. The city of Minneapolis and the state of Michigan have declared vaping a public health emergency and banned vaping. LA County health officials have called a vaping moratorium. Treating the illnesses have been extremely difficult because antibiotics don't work, and it's stated that at least 1/3 of the patients have been admitted to intensive care on ventilators, an extraordinary expensive situation. Here's what public health experts have been able to figure out so far. Most patients were otherwise healthy and in their late teens, 20s or 30s, though some of them that were older have fallen in illness as well. As health officials are testing and analyzing dozens of vaping liquids, devices, and cartridges for clues, many investigators now believe that the contaminants could be the culprit. And the focus has narrowed to vaping liquids containing THC, the active chemical in cannabis, and whether the contamination occurred in the cultivation cycle or in the manufacturing cycle of marijuana vaping cartridges. I came here tonight because the city has been considering additional operations that would include the manufacture of vaping products, popular but deadly items sold in marijuana storefronts. The vaping epidemic situation is emblematic of the lack of oversight of marijuana products in California because of the scarcity of testing facilities and the lack of personnel at the California Bureau's Cannabis Control to oversight. Considering this alarming situation, I respectfully suggest that as you go forward, you do not permit any marijuana cultivation or manufacturing businesses until the city has permitted testing facilities, and ban the production and sale of deadly vaping products in any future commercial businesses in Oceanside. So hopefully our cities will be on the right side of this drug epidemic. I have some recent articles from the CDC relating to vaping I'd like to give you.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Jason Mungel. I'm here on behalf of the Oceanside Warriors. I am the president. Several of our board members, some of our Warriors youth football community is here, along with our cheer. We're here to talk about, or start the conversation about finding us suitable practice fields. We talked a little bit prior to this, and I think we're headed in the right direction, but we're here to just put this on record. A little bit background on myself. I was born and raised here in Oceanside, went to Oceanside High School, played football, and went to college, came back. I've been working in the probation department, working with youth and adult felons for the past 20 years. So I'm invested in this community, and I'm concerned about the safety of our community regarding the fields that we're currently playing on. There's a lot of gopher holes that we've had about 15 kids so far have sprained ankles. The parking situation is not good. We have parents that are having to park across the North River Road street that you have cars that are going about 60 miles an hour. And we have 5-year-olds that are running across the street with their parents trying to get to practice. So we started with about 50 to 60 kids 6 years ago. We tripled that amount, and we have vastly outgrown this park, and we are continuing to grow. We have a waiting list for next year. So this is just to start the conversation and put it on record that we have gone through the chain of command over the last several years on trying to find a more suitable venue for our kids to play in a safe venue for practice. And now we're here trying to just start the conversation and move forward, whatever that means. If that means putting lights on, if we have to do extra fundraising, we're not here just to whine about the situation. We in our community of parents and coaches, we are willing to put in the work and be part of the solution, but we have to start somewhere. And I think we're headed in the right direction. We just need help. Thank you.
Dak Barrington, to be followed by Shu Maele, to be followed by Jim Marmack, to be followed by Joanne Taele.
Hello, City Council. That's a tough act to follow, but our president pretty much nailed it. I'm here just to, slow down here. This is my third time coming here to let you guys know about our situation. It is a big situation. It's a problem. And we are Oceanside. If I could have the Warriors stand up. You guys got a minute? There's a handful of us here, right? And we were going to bring the whole squad here, but we didn't want to make it so anybody else couldn't fit in your building, right? And we have a problem, and we believe you guys have the solution. We appreciate your time. I also want to say thank you to Esther, Michelle, Marjorie's been helping us. They've been trying to work with us to get this resolved, and we do appreciate that. And like Jason said, we think we're heading in the right direction. We're not here to cause a problem. We're just here looking for a solution. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
My name is Coach Shoot Malele. I've been a part of this organization since it started, and I've also been a volunteering part time for the community for over 10 years. And I'm just here to say that the fields that we are given, the dimensions that's given, the amount of teams that we have so far, it's kind of hard for us to practice to prepare ourselves for games. Like was mentioned earlier, some of our kids are getting hurt because of the maintenance of the field, And a lot of us coaches are adapting our coaching productivity because of what's given to us. We're just asking for better fields. There's a lot of things out there that we could use. Like Jason said earlier, whatever we got to do to make this process go through, we're here, and we have a lot of support behind us, and we just ask that you guys agree with us. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and City Council members, on behalf of the Oceanside Longboard Surfing Club, I'm elected board member Jim Marmack. We just wanted to say thanks for allowing us to host our 35th annual longboard surf contest at the Pier and Amphitheater this past August, a few weeks ago. I can't believe that we've been doing it, and I've been doing it for 35 years, and we look forward to another 35 years putting on this contest. We want to give special thanks to the Oceanside Parks and Recreation staff that work with us, including Patrick Young and Cass Bright. And also we want to thank the city employees that keep our beaches clean and the bandshell area clean for residents and visitors alike. We were fortunate enough this year to have the mayor as one of our entertainers in the amphitheater. So thank you, Mayor. And the beaches and the ocean are Oceanside's greatest assets, and we look forward to our continuing relationship and partnership with you in educating the public about the good fortune we have at our doorstep. Thank you very much.
Ele or Teo, to be followed by Cindy Rocco, to be followed by Nate Leovao, to be followed by Becky Rapp.
My name is Joanne Tyele. I'm a part of the board for the Warrior Foundation or Association, as well as the head coach of cheer. As you know, we are at the park at North River Road, and coming from Pop Warner and MLK, that wasn't the best field either, but we really do need assistance, and like they said, we will do whatever it takes to fundraise for lights at Mance Buchanan, or whatever it is we need to do, because it kind of hurts once we started for kids to sprain an ankle and have to be taken to the emergency room, which then puts parents out of cash. So it would help, as well for cheer and getting ready for competition, to try to do flips at a park that has holes also hurts us, because it makes it harder for us to figure out where we're gonna line up and where we're gonna do flips and, sorry girls, get back up, let's try it again, So, with the council members' help and pushing and moving forward, that would help our association to get better fields. We thank you and we appreciate the time that you've given us tonight.
Hi, Cindy Rocco, South Oceanside. First of all, I want to say thanks, Michelle, for everything you've done for our city. And just when I'm starting to get to know more about how, as much as I can, government operations is, I just think that I'm really going to miss you and that value. But I also congratulate Deanna Lorson, because I think she's amazing, and she already knows that I emulate her public speaking skills. So I'm pretty excited about that too. But I just wanted to state that publicly, and thank you. Also, I wanted to talk about the 9/11 celebration that the city did this morning, and it was just an incredible tribute. And I just want to, it's very personal to me, because I used to work in the Trade Center and travel underneath the PATH stations and all the malls under there, and was very active. I know many people here also experienced that, and it's, I'm definitely a NIMBY, not in my backyard. So anyway, I'd like to thank all the first responders and the military, and then just even fellow human beings that just did what they had to do, to help out and try to make New York normal again. I went back and you could just see the huge pit with the lights and coming out like the towers. And I just think maybe I was a little selfish. I'm blessed that not anybody that I know had passed away on that day. but this is the reason why it's personal to me. Zeb, I don't. That's my niece and nephew, and thank God, because my brother's kids go to public school downtown Manhattan, and he saw the plane, and when I got there, he had building blocks and took a plane to go through and knock that down. I think I just want to share because there was so many experiences, and then here's my friend Gerard, and these are the people I was most worried about that day. Oh, and that's Mateo. But Gerard was a broker, or is a broker still, on the American Stock Exchange. And when the alarm first went off, nobody ran. But when the second one went and they said to stay, they all ran because of the 93 bombing. So a lot of people, and people I know, weren't in the city. And then the other one, near and dear to my heart, was one of my fiancés. And that's actually his picture back in like 17 or 18 years old, and that was for his ID for the Trade Center, because he had to go up the escalators, etc. But anyway, I just want to share that, and I'm just going to say, the city just did an amazing job, and I want to thank you, whoever took care of that.
Hi, my name's Nathan, and the reason why I'm here is because our field has a lot of potholes, and like every year we'd have like 2 or 3 kids getting hurt a day because they twist their ankles or get hurt because they fall. And also one of the reasons why I'm here is because how it's unsafe sometimes, because there's a shooting last year and we felt unsafe, but we still had to practice, and yeah.
Becky Rapp, to be followed by Jimmy Knott. And that's it. I thought we had 17, but my 7s look like 2s for some reason tonight. So.
Good evening. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a parent and public health educator who works here in Oceanside. I'm here because last week, the U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams released a report to raise awareness of the known and potential harms of marijuana use posed by the increasing availability of highly potent marijuana. I'd like to read from the report, and I actually have a copy for you guys after. The marijuana available today is much stronger than previous versions. The report says that concentrates used in wax, dabs, vape pens, and edibles can contain more than 75% THC. In San Diego, I've seen it advertised at more than 90% THC. Going back to the report, the risks of physical dependence, addiction, and other negative consequences increase with exposure to high concentrations of THC. Higher doses of THC are more likely to produce anxiety, agitation, paranoia, and psychosis. Remember, these are the words of the Surgeon General, not my words. Frequent marijuana use during adolescence is associated with changes in areas of the brain involved in attention, memory, decision-making, and motivation. Chronic use is linked to declines in IQ, school performance that jeopardizes professional and social achievements, and life satisfaction. Regular use of marijuana in adolescence is linked to increased rates of school absence, dropouts, as well as suicide attempts. Marijuana use is also linked to early onset of psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia, and the risk of psychotic disorders increases with frequent use, potency, and the age at first use. I'm very concerned that young people will not properly be protected against the commercialization of marijuana in Oceanside, and respectfully request that the city have enough code enforcement and law enforcement personnel to scrutinize marijuana business practices and eliminate all advertising. Thank you.
Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I've brought to you tonight, to the council, a packet of information. It's about the 1916 flood here in Oceanside, California. There were deaths involved, And it happened basically in the entire San Luis Rey Valley area, from hillside to hillside. And it wasn't the 1,000-year flood. Now, what you have before you, coming before you in about a few weeks here, is going to be an item. I was told that it's unfair to you to give you a packet of information as thick as I gave you tonight and expect you to understand that in a minute. I'm giving you plenty of time so you can go through and read it and digest it. There are also other places where you can pick up more information, like the San Diego County Water Authority, also the San Diego Historical Society, and other groups. Now on this page right here, you'll notice right down here, the Oceanside's senior engineer for the civil engineer, McBride, said that we have a current flood control system that was built is not to prevent flooding. It's just to reduce the possibility of it happening. So when anyone says, oh, it's going to take and protect like in the North River Farms things, no, it's only to reduce it. We have also concentrating all our sewage coming up here in the San Luis Rey Valley area here. That's concentrating it all. We need to have at least an 8 to 14 foot high berm added to what we have now if you read the data. That's the reason why I've included lots of data with it. You need to understand it. You need to do your own research and not put it in the trash can behind your desk where you're sitting tonight. Take it with you home, study it, ask questions. Because what you'll discover is we'd have to take and do improvements all the way from Mount Palomar to the coast. So please take and understand a lot of the information that you're going to take with you. Thank you.
There's no more speakers.
Then we will go to item 25. Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. Item 25 is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Article 12 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Text and Downtown District Map.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Working?
Is it not working? You didn't vote.
Councilmember Sanchez, is it not working on your end? Okay. I'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Feller? Councilmember Kime?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Item 26, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. Item 26 is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending ZA 16-0008 with California Coastal Commission suggested modifications.
We have a motion and a second.
A roll call vote. Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
Yes.
Councilmember Kime?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Item 27, Mr. Mullen.
Item 27 is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2.10, Subdivision D of the Oceanside City Code by making the positions of City Clerk and City Treasurer appointed by the City Manager subject to voter approval.
I understand.
We have 5 speakers on this item.
Okay, we'll do the speakers, but we'll need to reduce them to 2 minutes each.
Okay. Our first speaker is Mary Ellen Reese, to be followed by Joe Hill, to be followed by Cindy Rocco, to be followed by Jimmy Knott.
And your time has been reduced by the mayor to 2 minutes.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Joe Hill, 2855 Rutgers Place on Oceanside. I have a question about the ordinance, and I guess I looked for a staff report in the binder, and maybe I missed something, but wasn't there a staff report done to assist the council in making the decision to put this on the ballot? Wasn't information from other cities and other places in the county checked to see whether it was maybe not the right thing to do, but at least give you guys a guide to what's going on in the other cities? I didn't see one.
Want me to answer that? Sure. The mayor's asked me to respond. Yes, there was a staff report in the with the introduction of this item.
Is it public?
We had a public hearing. We had a meeting where we introduced the ordinance. Okay. The item was accompanied by a staff report. There was a prior meeting when there was council direction to bring it forward for adoption.
So, Michelle,
so we also had the, I'm sorry, this is the ordinance, but we also had a separate item to place all of the measures on the ballot.
Right. But there is backup information that shows what the staff did as far as looking at other cities somewhere?
Yeah, there's a staff report that was presented. The city clerk can, I think, prepared that staff report. They could respond if they'd like.
Okay, that would be great if I could get that. And then the last point I have is, if you live near a Sprinter station, please take it to the festival on Sunday, so you won't be able to worry about parking. So take the Sprinter if you can. Thank you very much.
It was August 21st.
Cindy Rocco? To be followed by Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Nadine Scott.
Cindy Rocco, Honorable Council, thank you for your time. Just wanted to verify that this item, first of all, thank you, Councilmember Keim, and thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez, for putting the appointment piece on the agenda. Apologize, that's not the time to talk about it. Right now, on that day, from looking at transcripts, you actually opened the door, I believe legislatively, I'm not an attorney, but it was campaign finance reform, and I haven't seen the existing
That's
staff
not this
report.
item. Cindy, that's not this item. This is the adoption of an ordinance on the city clerk and city treasurer position. That item's coming later.
I thought, you mean for the ballot measure? Okay, I got something on that too. I'm sorry, I guess I'll wait for the next time, or can I get the time now, +1?
Ms. Rocco, this is the time to speak on the item, which is number 26 on the agenda.
27.
27, sorry. That is
Right, so that is one of the opening discussions that could lead to other reforms, but on that day,
this is the adoption of the ordinance.
right, but the ordinance that was agreed on, I guess, to have this workshop was...
This has nothing to do with the workshop, Ms. Rocco. This has to do with the city treasurer and city clerk positions.
Oh, having them on the ballot. Oh, okay, yeah. So appointments did relate to that because, as I can see, we had 2 out of 3 votes were made by appointees to decide whether we were going to have the choice to do appointments or elections. And I think the Rush did not analyze that measure at all. Appeared to be a bit personal on the Rush side, and I don't think you're doing the voters any justice on that. And I think that, let's just say our council here, I'm not sure of a certain level of qualifications and education.
If you could please wrap it up, Ms. Rocco, we have to go to our public hearings.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake before, but I just don't see appointees making appointments, and that I've already contacted the FPPs just to verify on whether you should have studied 2 separate ballot measures. Thank you for letting me combine my time.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. As a person who has run for the city treasurer a couple times in the past, and also has taken and run against Rosemary Jones, who saved the city hundreds of thousands of dollars by standing up to a mayor who tried to obfuscate with it millions of dollars. You got it correct there. And I would like to take, and she recommended that the city treasurer be elected. I appreciate you putting this, and I agree that it should be put to the voters for a consideration on whether any changes should be done. And I brought that forward, saying it should be only to the voters to decide. That the city treasurer and the city clerk hold unique positions in our city. The city clerk handles a lot of the parliamentarian issues that could be easily manipulated by the council, especially the mayor. That has been shown in the past where the city clerk has stood up, whoever was in that position, to the mayor and basically said no. And the city clerk, being appointed by the citizens in the elected position, stood firm. Also, the city treasurer has stood firm and has basically represented the people. I would like to see, if these are done in the way that is being put here, that those two positions be independent of the council, fully independent of the council, only responsible to the citizens. Thank you.
If I could, Peter, am I got my couple minutes?
You got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Nadine Scott, resident of Oceanside for 30 years. I also ran for treasurer. I also strongly supported Rosemary Jones. The potential for corruption in this town right now is immense. We have 7 elected positions and we have 3 appointed individuals with little or no public input. So it's fine you're putting this on the ballot. I've been out for 2 years with a bad back, but I'm going to fight this with everything I have. The people want more representation, not less. We do not want power concentrated with a majority on our council. You're picking the city manager, you're picking the city attorney. We don't want you picking our watchdog people. We want the clerk to remain independent, and we want the treasurer to remain independent. These appointments are way out of hand. That is kind of what Cindy was talking about. We have too many appointments to adequately be representative government for our citizens. So I know you'll put it on the ballot. I personally resent the appointment you made when I lost my office to a dead man. I thought that was ridiculous. It was shameful. And there's nothing that's going to prevent you from appointing your cronies again. So we need to stop this. Voters, vote no on this item when it comes up. Thank you.
There are no more speakers.
Do you need to, you already read?
6 o'clock.
I'll move adoption. Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Working? Oh, hey.
Okay, my light came on.
All right, cool. We're just waiting for Councilmember Rodriguez.
No.
A second, please vote.
No. Right. I got it.
Is it working for you, Councilmember Rodriguez?
It was him, not me.
Yeah. It's still, the vote is not displaying, but Weiss, Rodriguez, Feller, Keim, yes. Sanchez, no. Motion approved, 4-1.
At this time, we'll go to our 6 o'clock public hearing item number 18, which is receiving comments from the public relative to water quality and to public health goals report. I will open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff only.
Staff only.
Staff, and I did get some comments from the public.
Staff.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Rosemary Chura, Water Utilities Division Manager. I'm here to present the city's most current public health goals report. Staff recommends that the City Council receive public comment and accept the report on water quality relative to public health goals. I'd like to provide some information on definitions that will be presented here in this report. The first two are drinking water public health goals and maximum contaminant level goals. These are adopted by the state and federal EPA at concentration levels that pose no significant health risk if consumed in drinking water for a lifetime. The determination of associated health risk at low levels is theoretical, based on risk assessments with multiple assumptions, and often includes mathematical extrapolations. The last definition here is of maximum contaminant levels. This is the maximum level that a constituent is allowed to be in drinking water. These are federal and state requirements, and this is the regulatory definition of what is safe in drinking water. The PHG report is required to be published every 3 years in California and only in the state of California. This is in addition to the annual water quality report that the City of Oceanside is required to produce. This report contains a list of contaminants that were detected above the public health goal or the maximum contaminant level goal. It also includes information on cost estimates for best available technologies to treat these constituents below the public health goal. It also includes numerical public health risk and category of risk, and intended actions if applicable. This report covers the years 2016, 2017, and 2018. All drinking water data was analyzed for this report, and data shows that Oceanside's drinking water continues to meet all state and federal requirements set to protect public health. Excuse me. The water quality monitoring in Oceanside detected constituents above the public health goal and the maximum contaminant level goals for arsenic, total coliform, and uranium. I'm going to go through each one of these three constituents, but I would like to remind Council that all exceedances here do not constitute a violation of drinking water standards and does not indicate that the drinking water was unsafe to drink. As a matter of fact, the detected levels of these constituents were well below the maximum contaminant levels. The first constituent is arsenic. A common source for arsenic is erosion of natural deposits. The PHG for arsenic is 0.004 micrograms per liter, and 1 sample per year was above the public health goal, and this was located at the Twin Oaks Valley Water Treatment Plant, which is where Oceanside imports drinking water from the San Diego County Water Authority. The MCL was never exceeded. The interesting thing about the arsenic public health goal is that it's 500 times lower than what certified laboratories can actually detect. So this public health goal is a theoretical and mathematical calculation. The health risk of arsenic at the public health goal level is cancer in 1 excess case per million people. There are multiple best available technologies to treat for arsenic, and the cost to treat for arsenic below the public health goal is $1.60 per unit, or $11 million per year. No additional treatment is recommended. Total coliform, a commonly found large group of naturally occurring bacteria, and is not generally considered harmful, nor is its presence unusual. Total coliform is used as a rapid indicator of possible problems in the water system. Anytime total coliform is found in the distribution system, follow-up confirmation samples are required. The public health goal for total coliform is 0%. 4 positive total coliform samples in 3 separate months were detected during this reporting period. So that's a percentage of 1% positive. All repeat confirmation samples were negative. The maximum contaminant level was never exceeded. Currently, the city implements the best available technology for coliform elimination, and that is disinfection. There is no technology to guarantee 0% positive samples. No additional treatment is recommended. Uranium. The public health goal for uranium is 0.43 picocuries per liter. Detections ranged between 1.97 and 8.8, and the MCL is 20 picocuries per liter. Uranium is typically caused by naturally occurring radioactive elements that are present in rocks, soils, and water. The health risk associated with uranium at the PhD level is cancer in 1 excess case per million people. The best available technology is reverse osmosis at a cost of $2.26 per unit, or $16.9 million per year. To reduce these constituents below public health goals and maximum contaminant level goal levels would cost an estimated $28 million. That's an additional $636 per customer each year. I would like to reiterate that Oceanside's drinking water continues to exceed all state and federal drinking water standards set to protect public health. Staff recommends that the City Council receive public comment and accept the report on water quality relative to public health goals. This concludes my presentation, and I will be at sidebar with Director Dale. Thank you.
Do we have any speakers?
No speakers on this item.
So seeing nobody to speak, we will close the public.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. As a past commissioner of the Utilities Commission, I do get questions off and on throughout the year, and I would like for the Utilities Department to address one repeated question that publicly that I receive so it can be on the record, and that is on residual chemicals and drugs in the water from recycled water. Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, we'll close the public input portion of this. If you would like to address Mr. Knott's question, if possible.
Honorable Council Members, Carrie Dale, Water Utilities Director. The report covers potable water. Mr. Knott's question is regarding recycled water, so it's not applicable.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, and I just want to say, Rosemary, where'd you go?
She's right there.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, I was looking over here behind. Are you there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to let you know that there were several students in the chambers, and I think they were all listening intently, right, you guys? What school? What was that? Rancho Buena Vista, yay. Well, welcome. Listening intently because we are talking about our drinking water, and what you basically said is that we have these lower goals that would be in a perfect world, that's what we would want to do, that they are slightly elevated in terms of these three, which is arsenic, coliform, and uranium. One, there's just no technology at all to make improvements in it, and it was like, I don't know, 000, whatever. And one would be hundreds of dollars per household, which is like $600 per household, and it really does not rise to that level. It's still within safe standards. So, question, every 3 years we do this report, right? How have we fared over the years in terms of every 3 years we do this study? Are we basically in the same range?
Councilmember Sanchez, honorable council members, I don't know which constituents that we reported on the last few times we've done the report. We've had a handful of constituents every year. I think coliform is one of those ones that comes up probably every year because we do have hits occasionally, but I can get that to you at some point if you'd like it.
Okay, thank you. This is before us to accept the report, so I'm going to go ahead and move that we accept the report, something that we have to do every 3 years, right? Yes. Thank
Councilman
you.
Rodriguez.
So in a nutshell, our drinking water is way better than Carlsbad. Just want to put that on the record.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
I have been asked for us to take a 5-minute break so we can see if we can fix the technical difficulties we're having with the system. So we will take a break. We'll reconvene this meeting of the City Council, and we're going to go to item 19, which is a resolution approving a regular coastal permit for a deck and trellis at 917 North Pacific Street. And we'll open this public hearing and start with disclosures. No, Jack? No.
Staff only.
Staff only.
No public.
Staff.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. My name is Veronica Moronis, Planning Consultant with the Planning Division. I'll be presenting item 19 for you. I did it. So this is a request for a coastal permit for an attached deck and trellis at a multifamily residence located in the coastal zone and downtown areas. A permit through the Planning Division is required because the project site is located in the appealable area of the coastal zone. So the project site is located at 817 North Pacific Street. The project site, again, is in the downtown and coastal zone areas. As noted in the attached staff report, the deck is an existing unpermitted structure subject to a current code enforcement violation. The applicant requests the coastal permit to permit the existing deck and trellis modified to meet current development standards. A portion, as seen on this slide, will be demolished on the sides to comply with setbacks. The proposed deck and trellis are located at the rear of the property facing west and meet all development standards as proposed. The design is consistent with architectural guidelines for the downtown area and consistent with neighborhood development. And on July 24th, the project was reviewed by the Downtown Advisory Committee and found that the project is consistent with the local coastal plan, the general plan, and the zoning ordinance. And with that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is present for questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Are there any speakers?
Harriet Wickberg. I am a 43-year property owner, and I've lived in Oceanside for 35 years. Tonight, you're being asked to grant an LCP or local coastal permit to remodel and bring to code a previous unpermitted deck. I'm not opposed to anyone improving their property. However, the bluff is involved, and to me, this is a major concern. I live below the proposed project and that bluff. I'm not an authority on state coastal versus Oceanside's ability to issue coastal permits. I do question where the authority does lie here in this case. I've been told the footprint of the deck remains the same except for the 3 feet setbacks on the north and south sides of the property. Part of bringing the unpermitted deck in compliance would seem to need new support stanchions that would be driven or put into the bluff. My concern is how will that undermine the bluff when last summer 2 major holes were opened next door to north of this property, as well as slippage on the south edge of the same address. In the past, during a rainy season, 10 cubic yards of heavy ice plant and dirt slid from that property into our parking garage. I don't need any more drama in my life, so I would like to go on record with the above concerns of stabilization of the bluff needs to be a major factor for this project. I don't know if any of this is an issue with Oceanside giving a LCP, but I do want everything I've said on record as the work will go forward with this LCP being permitted. Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, we will close the public input portion of this. And staff, could you have someone address Ms. Wickberg's concerns?
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, the project was subject to review by city staff and departments, including the engineering division, where a geotechnical report for the project was reviewed and found to be consistent and meet standards, and subsequently approved. The geotech review was approved by that reviewer.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you. And it does say in the report that concrete caissons are proposed for the footings of the accessory structure. So I guess the question that basically is being asked is, what are the guarantees that this will not slide? And could we have staff respond to that? The staff did, I'm sure, consider the potential and is assuring us that that would not happen. Will not happen.
Good evening, Councilwoman Sanchez, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Brian Thomas, City Engineer for Oceanside. Our geotechnical consulting staff has reviewed the soils report as well as the wave run-up study for this particular project. There was a number of discussions back and forth, a number of plan check comments back and forth before he was satisfied that the caissons would be installed in a proper manner, that the soils would be compacted in a proper manner, and that at the end of the day, when all was said and done, that the slope would be stabilized.
Okay, and with respect to the, I guess what was described as a small slide, how did that happen? I mean, do we know?
I don't know what the
Was that something
circumstances surrounding
that staff was aware of at the time that they were reviewing this?
That I don't have the answer to, but
I think we have somebody.
Yes, Honorable Councilmember Sanchez, council members. So as stated in the presentation, the existing deck and trellis that is out there is unpermitted. So that happened seems to have happened prior to the current property owner coming in to obtain the legal permits to place a deck. So under the proposed project, the project would have to meet current standards as stated by engineering.
So bottom line, what was there before unpermitted was not done correctly, and what staff is requiring it that be done in a certain way that'll avoid any kind of slide. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
Wait, not done yet. I'm going to go ahead and move adoption, and I would like to ask staff to monitor this, to make sure that nothing happens to their neighbor. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
Turn. The statement by Mrs. Wickberg is very important, I think, to make sure it's within the record. She's lived there a long time, and whether that was permitted or not, we want to just make sure that that is as stable as it can possibly be made, and make sure her comments are submitted. That's all I want to say. I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
At this time, we'll go to item 20, which is introduction of an ordinance regarding sidewalk vending, and we'll start with disclosures. Open the public hearing.
I only spoke with staff and had a pretty long, detailed conversation over how this works. So that's my only contact.
Staff and one vendor.
Staff and several members of the public who saw this and contacted me about it. Thank you.
Staff.
Honorable Mayor and council members, Jane McPherson, Financial Services Director. Staff tonight recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance adding section 15.62 through 15.68 and amending section 31.42 of the Oceanside City Code to establish sidewalk vending regulations for location operating within the city of Oceanside and adopt a resolution setting the vending device impound fee. A little bit of background. This Senate Bill 946 was passed on September 17, 2018. He signed it, the California governor signed it into law. It legalizes sidewalk vending and establishes limits to local regulations. So this is a state law. And what we're doing today is looking at local regulations. It in part is to provide entrepreneurship, economic development, opportunities to low-income and immigrant communities. This was effective on January 1st of 2019. Cities can adopt regulations in accordance with SB 946. However, cities may not prohibit sidewalk vending. Oceanside previously prohibited sidewalk vending unless a permit was issued by the City Council. This ordinance is intended to ensure that the integrity of the city parks, beaches, and neighborhoods will be maintained while allowing for economic opportunity and complying with state law. The licensing requirements for sidewalk vendors include the business license, which is also, they have to have insurance, California Department of Tax and Fee Administration seller's permit, and all applicable health permits from the County of San Diego if they're doing food vending. Operating conditions. The sidewalk vendor operating conditions include they can only operate on non-prohibited public sidewalks or other pedestrian paths. There has to be a minimum of a 4-foot clear accessible path free from all obstructions. Vending devices cannot touch, lean against, or be affixed to any building, structure, tree, pole, or other object. And they're allowed to operate from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And if they're left for a period, I believe it's 30 minutes or more, it can be impounded, and the fee is going to be set at $61. So now I will have Kirk join us, and he'll go over the remainder of the slides.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Kirk Munt. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager for the City of Oceanside, and my division would be involved with the regulation and enforcement of this ordinance. Some of the prohibited locations within the City of Oceanside for sidewalk vending would be within 100 feet of the Oceanside Beach, on the Oceanside Pier, the Pier Plaza area, Pacific Street Linear Park, Tyson Street Park, the Harbor, Harbor Village, and Civic Center Plaza Complex. Other prohibited locations would also be within any median strip, within 500 feet of a public or private school or daycare facility, 1 hour before classes and 1 hour after classes. Also 100 feet from a police station, fire station, certified farmers market, or swap meet during those operational hours. Within 100 feet of any park where the park operator has an agreement for concessions that exclusively permits the sale of food or merchandise by the concessionaire. Stationary vendors will also be prohibited from operating in residential areas. The methods for enforcement from the Code Enforcement Division, it's limited to administrative citations. Criminal citations are specifically precluded. The penalty amounts for licensed vendors would be $100, $200, $500. The penalty amounts for unlicensed vendors are higher and go up to $1,000. The impound of the mobile vending device is also a possibility, as well as the $61 impound fee, which would be for a 1 hour of staff time. From the Business License Division, upon the 4th violation, the division can revoke the business license. And as I mentioned, the $61 fee would be set by resolution. Finally, staff recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance adding section 15.62 through 15.68 and amending section 31.42 of the Oceanside Municipal Code to establish sidewalk vending regulations for locations operating within the city of Oceanside and adopt a resolution setting the vending device impound fee. And staff is available for any questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address this issue? Mr. Knott?
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I have a few questions on this. Does this only apply to automatic, like machine vending, or all types of vending? And the second question is, what about for nonprofit groups, or like say different community organizations that would take and do vending themselves? Would this prohibit them from taking and conducting any type of activities? Because the question is interpretation of what the regulations are. And the third question is like, as an example, up in Crown Heights, you have a couple of vehicles up there that do sales out of the back ends of some trucks up there. When I was a kid, down near the pier, I don't know if you recall, I know that Esther probably recalls, is that the people would drive down with the trucks, they would have fruits and vegetables that they would sell to the tourists. And frequently, my family would take and buy the vegetables as, go down the beach and have some fresh fruits and vegetables. And that was very convenient. Would that be prohibited from them from doing some sort of free market trade like that? It was very good for the tourists at that time. And I don't think that would be something we want to prohibit. Maybe we could just isolate it, maybe, I don't know. But it was very convenient at the time, and we may have some home gardeners that may want to take and do something similar. There's questions like that come to mind that going back in my memory as a kid, from the bygone ages, that seems to be something that we could take and reinvigorate and make it a lot more convenient for our tourists that would take and come into our town. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, we will close the public hearing portion. Oh, go ahead. If there's anyone else, please come down to the podium.
My name is Ellen Bartlett. I live at 2362 Short Hill Drive in Oceanside. I just wanted to ask, since this was originally passed by the governor to help lower socioeconomic people as far as, selling things, I was just wondering, as somebody that doesn't know that much about these fees, what if somebody is found to be in violation? And they don't have a lot of money? Are these just going to have their items confiscated, or is there going to be a fine? Are they going to be warned, or how does this work? Because that might be, very difficult for somebody that's selling something and doesn't realize, that they're going to be fined for it, and all of a sudden $61 might be a lot of money, or to have their truck or their whatever they're selling out of impounded. So I was just wondering how this is going to be enforced, and if people are going to be given warnings, and is there going to be information sent in the communities to let people know about this? And those are just some questions I had regarding that. Thank you.
With that, we'll close the public input portion. And staff, would you like to address any of the questions that came up?
To address Honorable Mayor and council members. Regarding the vending machine question, The sidewalk vendor, there's a definition in section 15.63, is that it is a person or entity sells food, merchandise from a push cart, stand, display, pedal-driven cart, wagon, showcase rack, or other non-motorized conveyance, or from one's person upon a public sidewalk or other pedestrian path. And it's, again, it's really confined. It's not a vending machine. It's something that someone's operating to sell a food product or some other type of item. So that is the definition of, it's not a vending machine per se. As far as the nonprofit groups, if they have a special permit, that is an exclusion in here, so they would not be impacted. So without a special permit, they would be subject to the same terms of this sidewalk ordinance, vending ordinance. Backs of trucks, again, it would have to go back to it wouldn't, if you're selling from a back of a truck and you don't have a special permit and it doesn't define here, it would not be allowed. Local income, Kirk, maybe you can address how we would approach it when people are learning about this ordinance.
As far as the penalties associated with this ordinance, there is an ability to pay provision that is part of that. We're still defining a process on how we would determine that amount, but the penalties could be reduced to as much as 20% of the full fine amount based on the appellant's ability to pay determination.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. And this is a completely new direction for the city of Oceanside. We have traditionally been very respectful and protective of brick and mortar businesses because there is this huge investment in paying rent. Maybe some people actually buy the building. And here we are with a new state law that is allowing street vendors and with very few restrictions allowed. The only restrictions really are a local authority may, by ordinance or resolution, adopt additional requirements regulating the time, place, and manner of sidewalk vending only if the requirements are directly related to objective health, safety, and welfare concerns. So pretty much as we go forward, we're going to have to try to make this work. And in light of, I know that one of the conversations I had by somebody who contacted me had to do with the fact that the swap meet's gone. The last possible indoor swap meet is disappearing, and there are these, potential businesses that, were flourishing before, and so what's going to happen? So the wider sidewalks, I think we have some wider sidewalks on Mission Avenue. Perhaps even in front of the theater, but I think what really is going to help here is to hopefully have them organize themselves and hopefully do this together, because I think if they do it in an organized fashion, perhaps it'll be a way of going at one place, maybe on weekends or something, and then, I understand from talking to staff that we can't direct anyone. We can't say, okay, this is where we're going to have this sidewalk vending, and nowhere else. It's throughout our commercial areas, even within residential, but through residential, they have to keep moving. They cannot be stationary. Is that correct, staff? Yes. So again, this is a completely new direction. It's certainly not my intention, nor I'm sure anyone's intention, to hurt existing brick and mortar businesses. The whole idea is to expand the business community, and I believe this was actually intended more to address issues that were happening in the city of Los Angeles, for example, rather than the city of Oceanside. So I'm going to go ahead and move introduction of the ordinance and adoption of the resolution, and I'm hoping that if there are some issues and concerns, that you let us know, see how we can work this out, and just another FYI and underline, this is state law that we are
basically, this, all we're doing is being consistent with that state law and bringing into compliance, with our own laws and with the county. For example, if one of them is a food vendor, then of course you have to comply with all the requirements of the county. I think the only thing that I heard is that you cannot have a service. You cannot run a service out of a sidewalk. So you can't, for example, sell phones and say, okay, you got to also, buy into this service. So that is not permitted. But certainly merchandise, food, those kind of things. I can't think of anything else. Staff, anything else?
Kind of CBD oils, a lot of that is not allowed. Of course, cannabis is not allowed. But yeah, if you're selling your little widgets or whatever and it falls within the cart and so forth, you can go ahead and do it. It's just services to, like you said, for phone service. I'm selling phone service here. Or someone had mentioned to me, I'm giving haircuts here. Well, that's a service I don't think that we'd be doing there on a cart.
So, for example, you could sell like paintings, but you cannot paint someone's likeness, right? Because would that be a service?
I defer to you, Lynn, on that.
You know how in
You're
San
not
Francisco
selling a
they
product
make
per
all
se
these
if you're
drawings of
painting,
you?
so you're actually, and I think the timing of it it'd be depending on how long it took, because so I don't know.
That'll be a question for you guys, right? Do you have the answer?
Councilmember Sanchez, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members, that's not a situation we anticipated.
Oh, sorry.
But the painting itself would be a good, my interpretation of this ordinance at least, is that if it's painted outside and you're waiting for it, then that might be a service. But if the painting's done beforehand, that would appear to be a good, which is allowed.
Right. So artisan items, jewelry, whatever. All right, well, as I said, I'm moving to introduce the ordinance and adopt the resolution. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Second. I did speak at length about this. I'm not a love lost for competition on the street for brick and mortar. I've had something that's been brick or mortar most of my businesses, so it's hard enough to compete when you have. I don't think the plaza, for instance, at the Regal is a place that they could set up any food distribution, huh?
It would need to be a public sidewalk or a pedestrian path to qualify.
So those are wide sidewalks there, but somebody isn't going to be able to sell ice cream sandwiches or something like that in that location when they might be able to get it at a restaurant. So I do have a couple of questions. One is it 500 feet from the property line or 500 feet from the building?
The current ordinance, Honorable Mayor and council members, the current ordinance says 500 feet of any public or private school. In consistency with the rest of the city code, that's typically from the property boundary. And I believe we would enforce it in that manner from the furthest boundary of that public school or daycare center.
Okay. And can this happen on our bike path?
It's not a sidewalk.
It's 8 feet wide, so.
It is a pedestrian path as well as a bike path, so I believe it would be allowed under that circumstance.
Good luck.
Remember, it has to have a 4-foot clearance. So in some areas, that might be difficult on some of the paths.
There probably will be in the areas around the bridges, mostly. So my big concern you've already met, and that was for all the property owners, sports leagues that have concessions in the parks. The concessions that are pretty much the livelihood of a sports league, so at each park, and you've accomplished amenable solution there, I believe, by making them the concessionaire, if that is what I heard. And I think that's a great idea to allow the youth sports to continue their fundraising, and that's one of their big fundraising is the snack bars. So this is a wait and see for me. But I'm going to support it.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
A few questions. Are you able to move it to the slide that shows the amount of feet away from the parks?
The section that talks about within 100 feet of any park where the park operator has an agreement or concessions that exclusively permits the sale of food or merchandise by the concessionaire. Is that what you were referring to?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The concessions during, Little League season, it's a big fundraiser. I totally agree with that and respect that. Do they by chance pay, or how does that work with Parks and Rec? Like, do they pay a fee and go through the same process that a vendor would have to go through as far as public health and those sort of dynamics in order to sell those to the Little League families?
From what I understand, and I'd have to double check, my understanding is those concessionaires are not subject to special permits or any other kind of rules. Health department, they have that, but I haven't looked into overall how they're all handled, but so it's a different type of situation than what we're doing with the sidewalk vendors.
Got it. Number two, so they have to get a business license.
Mm-hmm.
There's a permit they would have to get, is that correct?
Right, they would have to get the business license. It's a seller's permit, so it used to be called the Board of Equalization. They changed their name to the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. And then any health permits if they're selling food or, that type of thing.
But those are fees paid to outside organizations,
correct? Except for the business license,
Except for
yes.
the business license,
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So has it been considered that these vendors pay a fee to our city to be considered a vendor? Does the Senate bill allow for a fee that the city can collect for these unique vendors that are able to be mobile?
I believe they fall under our normal business licensing, where we have a set fee to enroll and so forth, and then they pay a percentage of gross receipts. So that's how we obtain the additional revenue. So it does allow for us to do it, which is our normal procedure. So it's not a special fee that we've set up in business license. It's our normal administration fee, annual fee that everyone pays. Where we get the different variations is the gross receipts portion.
Okay, so that they pay at the end of the year for their gross
Yeah, they
receipts.
pay quarterly on
Got it.
whatever their gross receipts are. So if you don't have a lot of gross receipts, you just have a minimum payment, a smaller minimum payment.
Got it, but it hasn't been considered to just all businesses in Oceanside, selling merchandise or food. Is there a potential to charge just an additional fee to a vendor that does this unique type of business?
There's always a potential for that. We haven't brought that forward or talked about it at this time.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, every business that applies for a business license has to pay the administrative fee too.
That is
so
correct.
You pay a business license administration fee, which is designed to cover the cost of providing the service of issuing the license and conducting whatever inspections are necessary. So those are the fees that are designed to cover our costs. So if that has to be adjusted, we'd have to look at that, but
Right,
it's not proposed to be.
Right, it's supposed to be cost reimbursement, so that's where the admin fee is. And so if there's anything else different, it would have to be brought forward in a resolution in order to set a fee. And that has a lot of other requirements.
Got
involved.
it. When they apply for this, and let's say let me back up a little. I'm originally from Chicago, and we would depend on being in the parks, being by the beach, the ice cream, and the Mexican ice cream and the cucumbers and the corn on the cobs, with the cayenne pepper, and it's a cash business, and those vendors make a lot of money. And I guarantee you, I predict it right now, you're going to see the ice cream vendors and the fruit vendors. That's going to be a cash business, and a lot of they're going to be at the parks where the families are. I'm going to go buy ice cream for my kids and get fruit for my kids, and I'm going to have cash, and they're going to make money. And so I see a lot of opportunity in this, but I also see the limitations on code enforcement to really regulate this, and we need to mitigate that cost. So you have the opportunity for these businesses to make a lot of money, but we need to mitigate that. And so I think we should look at the potential of a fee that we can charge these mobile businesses to help mitigate and offset that cost. That's one concern. The second is, are they assigned to a particular area, or is it a free-for-all within our entire city within the boundaries of this? Because what I don't want to see is 50 ice cream vendors at Melba Bishop Park.
Right. There are regulations that they have to be over, I think, 20 feet, 5 feet apart from each other. They can't. What's that? Go ahead, Lynn.
Councilmember Rodriguez. Honorable Mayor, Councilmembers Lingwin, Deputy City Attorney, there are distance requirements between vendors. They have to be 100 feet apart. As far as the stationary vendors, when they apply, they have to place in their application their proposed vending locations as well. Staff will review that to make sure it's feasible. As far as the roaming vendors, they're exactly what they sound like. They're roaming, so they're not going to have one set location. There are restrictions on them as well to make sure they're not stationary. They can't stop for extended periods of time. They can only stop for transactions.
All right. Yeah, I honestly see an opportunity for our city to help mitigate impacts. We have to best equip ourselves for what the state throws at us, and we're going to have enforcement issues. We're really limited on enforcement as it is, and I really think my colleagues and I, we should reconsider this and have instruction to charge additional fees, because these businesses are going to make money. It's cash business. They're going to make great money. We need to be able to have the staff hours and time to be able to mitigate impacts to our parks, near our beaches, and to make sure that they're not spilling grease and walking away and not cleaning it up. We need to be able to have the staff power to be able to mitigate that.
There's no other lights, so Mr. Mullen.
So this is the introduction of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside adding Article 5 to Chapter 15 of the Oceanside City Code and amending Section 31.42 to regulate and license sidewalk vending pursuant to California Senate Bill 946.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Rodriguez, is it working? Motion approved, 4-0, with Councilmember Rodriguez abstaining.
At this time, we'll go to item 23, which is a recommendation for appointments for the city's various advisory groups per the memo that's in the packet. I will move approval of those appointments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
At this point, we'll go to item 24, which is a request by council members Kyman Rodriguez. So I'll leave it up to which one of you wants to open it up.
I'll open, Mayor. As most of you know, I was appointed this January to fill the seat. I was appointed.
Gosh darn it. No.
So it was very humbling, and I've been very honored. I have spent majority of my career in service to Oceanside as a police officer, And then I also had the privilege of serving as spokesperson and on the executive management team of the Sheriff's Department. And one thing I've learned during my time working for the government is we do the right things for the right reasons. One thing we can improve upon is communication and transparency. And I hope with this we can, we're directing staff to look at a process that's transparent and can be repeated in policy and inspire confidence when the next opening happens. And that's what I hope this can achieve. That's it.
We have 4 speakers on this item. Our first speaker is Arlene Hammerschmidt, to be followed by Cindy Rocco, to be followed by Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Jane Marshall.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much, Councilmember Keim, for bringing this forward and for your time meeting with members of Represent Oceanside. With the permission of Leticia Pepper, I'm going to use some of her language in a letter that she wrote to Council. First off, number 1, not from Leticia, but from my conversations, Council should never have more than 1 appointee, period. More appointees just dilutes public's representation. If a council seat is filled without an election, then the appointing body, which is the City Council, should, as a representative of the public, appoint only after soliciting and paying attention to public input. Past procedures prevented any public input. The process didn't involve the citizens being represented by the appointed person, nor show that the existing council cares about what citizens think. And I thank Mr. Ryan Keim again for being open to bringing this forward. The flaws in the past practice include the time frame was really short, the application and screening process was during a holiday period. There was no meaningful opportunity for public input or public consideration of the candidates. No application form, no consistent public reporting of information obtained from the interviews, no explanation why mayor and or city council members voted for the persons that they did vote for. There was a lack of a standard, open, and transparent process, and that diminishes public confidence and leaves public convinced that cronyism is at work, which Mr. Keim alluded to. What's needed is a standard, open, and transparent process for filling such vacancies with public fully integrated throughout the process. Recommendations include solicit applicants broadly, use a standard application form that includes community issues of concern, make the completed applications available publicly on the city's website and also at City Hall and the libraries, hold a public forum for all applicants, and let the public ask questions. Each council member, please state your reason for selecting one candidate or the other. And I have emailed you privately, not as a representative of Represent Oceanside, of another option that you could consider that is completely proactive instead of reactive. Thank you very much for your time.
Honorable Council, Cindy Rocco. I just want to say, I have like 15 seconds, Mayor Weiss. Thank you so much, Councilmember Keim. You really have made a lot of opportunity for us to talk, and we're not experts at this process. You know, we're learning as we go. We just see things and we go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. So we act on that, and whether we're fumbling the ball and not doing it as well as staff and everyone, I think we're just, you know, really putting an effort there. And I'm Councilmember Rodriguez, I believe you were the co-signer on bringing this to the agenda. And I just want to say thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. After the most recent appointment processes, the public had a number of different issues that was brought forward. Number one, their input. Some of them wanted to have a public election. And some of them said, well, let's save money and just take in point. There was basically no input on whether or not there should have been a sampling, on whether or not there should have been one or the other given or taken by this body. That was a deliberate choice, saying we were going to do it anyway without the consideration of the public. Second thing was the applicant disclosures. The public needed to be disclosed on who was applying. It seemed to be a private, secret process. And the public was, members of the public was seemingly upset, I'll put it that way. A lot of members of the public that they didn't know who was in the bag. They thought it was already a bias set aside on who was there to be coming into the seats. We have legislative bodies, as an example, the Planning Commission. They have a structure that you follow, an interview process, a public disclosure process. It should have been followed the same method, but there was a decision that it would not be followed. And then there was a question of publicizing what should have been easily done over the internet. There could have been a web page saying these are the people who have applied. And that would have been sunshining the whole process. The state of California has laws for sunshining. You should have emulated basically those laws, and it would have bred a lot of confidence. As it was, a lack of confidence was basically bred into the public. So we need to take and look at this very carefully and put the power back into the public's hand and say, okay, we've heard you. And I thank you, Councilman Rodriguez and Kime, I thank you for bringing this forward. And I hope you do the right thing.
Good evening, Council. Jane Marshall, Crestview Drive resident. I'm just very excited about this opportunity to provide transparency and accountability to a process that involves really everyone in the city. So thank you, Ryan, for bringing this forward, and thank you, Christopher, for seconding this. This is a great opportunity. I really hope you take advantage of it. I mean, first of all, it's an opportunity for transparency. It's an opportunity for involving your stakeholders in a more public, open, friendly way. We're all on the same team, really, so there's no, us and them and backdoor needed in any of this. And though I was involved with the last appointment process, which was, I believe, better than the one that was done for when the mayor was appointed, it still has some ways to go. And all I ask is that staff has the opportunity to benchmark other cities, what they're doing, so that we get a best practice kind of look, and that is also allowed to have a public review and input before it is accepted or otherwise creating a new process. Because for my decades of working with organizations on process improvement, it's all about transparency and involving stakeholders to have a quality of output. And that's really what we want, quality of output, not efficiency. Thank you.
There are no more speakers.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. And I'm really happy to see this because it really reflects a change of heart. Basically, I'd like to first start with the mayor's appointment process that we had. State law seems to favor, especially for the mayor's race, treating the mayor's race separately when there's a vacancy, and really recommends holding an election if there are more than 2 years left on that vacancy. And we had 3 years, basically. And we could have easily have set it for that June election or even the November election. And it would have been much more transparent. I think the concerns that were voiced at the time was that it was going to cost too much. And yet here we are, putting items on the March primary that could really wait. Time is not really, on those items, time is not really of the essence. So I'm really looking to see what staff comes up with, but especially with the mayor's race, I would strongly recommend that if there are more than 2 years left, that the language be that shall have an election. Mayor's position especially is seen as the leader of the city, and I think we lost a golden opportunity to have more transparency by allowing the people of the city of Oceanside to elect their mayor with 3 years left on the term. As to city council, the code allows for either one, but seems to favor appointments, especially if there are less than 2 years left on the term. And what we did when we were talking about this appointment that now has Councilmember Keim, I remember having the discussion and suggesting that we at least follow what we do when we appoint to the Planning Commission, and that is have a very public process, ask all the questions be standard questions, and allow the public to speak. And again, unfortunately, that did not happen. I personally went ahead and interviewed everyone and had standard questions for each one. I sent them all out at the same time. I think there were, 25 potential candidates for one position. I think when we ran Jack, the first time that we ran, there were 15 candidates for 2 positions, right? So I think that it is terribly important. Again, I'm really glad that we're having a change in how we regard this. I think at the time it felt like we have to hurry up because, if we don't, we're going to end up with, 2-2 votes. And of course, that never really happened, right? So this is something so important to our public that at the dais, when they come, they see us doing the work of the public. We have a very large operating budget. It ranges for these kids that are here, from parks to what kind of businesses we're going to have in terms of, the overall, is it going to be a grocery store? I remember when we had those questions about the Walmart, well, can they really do food as well? Well, yeah, because it was zoned for a grocery store. So lots of things coming up, and I really look forward to this. So I'm going to go ahead and support this. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Councilmember Keim, for bringing this up. I've also had meetings with Represent Oceanside, and I think me and Keim are on the same page, and I think the entire dais and my colleagues are on the same page. We want more public transparency. We want more public trust, and so I fully support this. And I'm thankful we have Ryan on council, and I'm thankful for Councilwoman Sanchez for making the motion that brought in a unanimous vote to support Ryan Keim to be on council. So I'm fully in support of this. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Thank you. We've had several over the years, all the way back in 2004 was the first one, and we ended up having to fill a seat that still had 2 years left on it. I believe Sherry Mackin was elected in June of 2005. But I don't recall all the way through all of this how everybody, I mean, Rocky left in 2009 and we ended up with Chuck in 2010. And people in our position are trying to be upwardly mobile, I guess, and so you end up with guys like Ryan getting on the council because Esther went to, took out one of another council member. So it's a battle when people are going. You know, I'm proud to have supported Ryan in his appointment, but that's how the appointment process works. And if you can't agree, you have an election. There's state law that says that's what has to happen. I believe a lot of the cause has been the cost of having an election. They could be as much as $500,000 or $600,000 elections. So I think that's a deterrent to not appointing. So if we can make it clearer, you know, I made it very clear. I interviewed 29 people for Ryan's position, and it was a long, pretty arduous process. Everybody knew who was applying. It was published all the time by who had submitted their names. So I'm eager to see how this turns out.
I'll take care of it.
Because it could be. We need to do this again shortly. So that's I'll support this.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Right. I want to say for the record, what Councilmember Feller was referring to is that we changed our form of government, or the way we elect people from at large to district elections, and someone who was also sitting on the council before, we ended up both in the same district. And it's happening all over this, San Diego County. Many cities are transitioning from at-large to district because of state law, and it's happening all over. So we both ended up living in the same district. I've lived in, our families lived in the same street since 1930s. So it was important for me to run to represent my district. Thank you.
Councilmember Keim.
I just want to clarify. I want to clarify one point. I used a specific word intentionally, and that was the appointment process. This is not meant to determine if we're going to hold an election or an appointment. This is just if an appointment decides to be the process, how we go about appointing, and just to standardize that, so it can be consistent all the way through. It's not about whether we're having an election or an appointment. It's if we go down the appointment path.
Thank you. And there seems to be general support for this. So I think there's direction to the city manager's office. And I guess the question I would have is, what do you see as a timeline for bringing something back that we would be able to respond to?
Honorable Mayor, council members, we can have something back to you by December.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we need to take a motion. I think there's plenty of direction for that. I guess that leaves us to adjourn. Prior to us adjourning, though, and we'll be adjourning to Mayor and Council workshop at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, September 18th, I would like to take a moment of silence to honor and remember those from 9/11. Thank you very much, and we stand adjourned.